Blake Griffin loves Boston. I mean, loves Boston. We'll talk about that. Plus, forwards galore running through Boston. Kristaps Porzingis says he's going to be ready, but still, forwards galore coming through. All that and more on Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown working out right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I'm here for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the next few weeks, and then it'll be every day for the remainder of the season, the playoffs, basically 10 months of 5, 6, maybe even 7 days a week, and then a couple months of 3 days a week because, hey, I got to relax a little bit too. So thank you for listening, thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing. If you're new, welcome aboard. I hope you enjoy the podcast. If you're an everydayer, thank you for making the show part of your regular routine. I'm John Karalis. I used to play a long time ago. Now, my job is to cover the Boston Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. And today, lots to talk about, getting more into Tatum and Brown working out. People were just, I don't know, both sides react. It's August. People are going crazy. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the forwards coming through and Kristaps Porzingis. And all of that. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to get started. Let's bring in Tom Westerholm to start off with a little love from Blake Griffin. What's not to love about Boston, Tom?
Oh, listen, man, it's you talk to Blake Griffin, you're gonna get a 5-star Yelp review on Boston. That man enjoyed the city of Boston quite a bit.
He really did. I don't know if he's going to come back.
Yeah.
Reportedly, there's interest from the Celtics. Hey, if you want to come back, we'd love to have you. But you know, his family's all on the West Coast. Tough to go through another season. I mean, it's tough. You know, he's got kids that are in schools and stuff. You're not going to pull them out, and then you don't want to do that, right? So, such is the life of an NBA player.
Yep.
If he wants to chase a ring, he can do it in Boston, or he can try to do it. I don't know. What is Denver going to have a spot for him? Is one of those West Coast teams going to have a spot for him where he can maybe get his ring that way? But
I know this isn't how you meant it, but it is so East Coast of you to call Denver a West Coast team.
Yeah. That's right. I know. Closer to the West Coast.
Right. Much closer.
Team. Everything west of
Worcester. Everything west of Worcester is West Coast.
It's like I think the Rocky Mountains are in Springfield. I'm pretty sure. You
get the Berkshires and the Rockies mixed up sometimes.
They're same, aren't they the same thing? I thought they were just different names. Like
the same range,
like the Native American name, and the other is
right. Yeah.
I mean, is that not right? I might be misinformed. I went to public school, so I might have gotten that wrong.
In Rhode Island, so yeah.
In Rhode Island, which is even worse. Like we're like Connecticut. Do I need a passport? Do I need a passport to go to? No, you got a special dispensation to go to the Mystic Aquarium. Yeah, and then after that, I don't know, Hartford. Don't even bother. So, but it is good. You know what? To have that kind of endorsement. So much is said about Boston, and for varying degrees, rightfully so, and varying degrees, it's over. It's exaggerated, whatever. To have a guy like Blake Griffin, who's respected, who's been around, to come in and be like, hey, you know what? Fans, awesome. Team, awesome. Franchise, awesome. That was really good. If there's a player out there who maybe is on the fence, and you got this kind of endorsement from Blake Griffin, that is nothing but helpful for the Celtics.
I mean, it matters, and I think you're right. I think there's some there's some sense of legitimacy with some of this stuff, right? If you're Isaiah Thomas, I understand why you're upset with Boston, and I listen, that trade no question. I mean, it made sense at the time. I'm not saying that at all. But if you're Isaiah Thomas and you're a little mad at Boston, like that makes some sense to me, right? Like if you're Jay Crowder and you found out that you were traded at like the time in his life that he found out he was traded, like sure. But like there's also the other side of it where it's like, hey, if you play in Boston, like you're going to be playing in front of a rabid fan base. You're going to be playing for an organization that genuinely, I mean, to literally like over everything else, an organization that values winning, that is trying to win a championship. I mean, like that's not a bad place to be. And that, you know, yeah, like it's a tough place to play. It can be a tough place to play. It can be, you know, I mean, yeah, like if you're that rich, Massachusetts isn't always like, you know, the place
taxes are what they are. Yep.
That's all valid for sure. But then, yeah, like you're right. You get somebody like Blake Griffin in there who has been around the league, who's been in winning situations, who has been in not winning situations, who has, you know, been like a young face of the league, who's been a grizzled vet, who's done all this stuff. And he comes to Boston, he comes to the Celtics and says, hey, this is a great place to play basketball. I had a great time here. Like, this is a great organization. The youngsters are really talented. That's great stuff, man. Like, if you're Brad Stevens, put that on a bulletin board.
Yeah, right.
Because, like, yeah, that's a heck of an endorsement.
It's a nice recruiting pitch, and to say of Jayson Tatum that he is, you know, a true superstar who's just willing to sit and have a conversation with everybody.
Yeah,
it tells you, obviously, opinions like this are formed from experience, right? So he has seen the NBA superstar who will not sit and talk to everybody.
Yes.
You can kind of go back into Blake's history and, okay, how many superstars has he played with? Well, none in Detroit that I recall. So I don't think DeAndre Jordan is a superstar necessarily. So that just leaves basically Chris Paul, right?
Yeah, that's
so
really who it is.
He basically said through glowing compliments of Jayson Tatum, Chris Paul is a dick, is basically what he said.
Well, and I mean, don't forget, Kyrie and KD is the other one, like where it's like he played with those guys too.
True. Yeah. So, okay. So maybe I should apologize to Chris Paul because he did. Maybe Kyrie is one of the guys that he's talking about.
I think it might be both of those guys, right? Like guys who like didn't talk to, you know, like, you know, maybe your two-way guy on the Brooklyn Nets had a hard time sitting down with KD. Like I could see that. Like
I'm not informed.
I don't know, but yeah.
But regardless, like, okay, so those are the types of people that he's been around, right? And Tatum, we've seen Tatum with everybody, and like we can attest to some of it because he's out there, you know, just he's messing around with everybody. We've seen him in the locker room messing around with everybody.
There's not a single person in recent Celtics history that he likes more than Javonte Green. Like,
yeah. Javonte Green's like one of his best friends.
Yeah.
You know, and Grant Williams to a different level, but like role player, he always worked out with, you know, he's a guy off the he could be hanging out with Jaylen Brown, he could be hanging out with like certain people, but I don't know, that tells me a lot about superstars and ego and team. And I just don't understand how you can be part of a team and have anybody being that like that, right? Like anybody having that attitude of like, you're not good enough to talk to me. What have you done in your career to like, I'm sorry that I don't have like your physical stature or your ability to process things, but hey, I'm in the NBA, right? Like if I'm an NBA player,
right.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm one of 450, right? Like we're on the same freaking union, right?
Yeah.
I pay my dues. I pay the same percentage of my dues. So like, I understand who you are to say these things, but also who are you to say these things to me as a human being? Like, what you are better at basketball than I am. I'm better at basketball than, you know, everybody else. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. But I also think, you know, and that's that side of it, right? I think it's also the reverse too, where it's like, oh, Jayson Tatum is somebody you do want to build around, you know, like, because it's like, obviously it's the negatives as well, but it's also like, hey, this dude is crazy talented, and man, it's just refreshing to have a dude who's this talented, who is I mean, like, that's a guy who wants to win. You know, like if you take your teammates that seriously, if you take the role players that seriously, if you take, your and you don't, kind of elevate yourself above those guys, because those guys are really important to winning a title. Like, if you're the Celtics and you're hearing that about your superstar, who is a top 5, top 10, whatever player in the NBA, man, that's big time. Like that's a really important guy to have in your franchise, because that's a guy who's about the right things.
Yeah, no, it is important. I mean, I wish he'd come out and talk to the media a little bit sooner than he normally does. I mean, if we're putting in requests for Jayson Tatum to talk to everybody
for things that Tatum could improve upon,
if we're just putting in requests, I'd like to not wait an hour and a half to come out. But I mean, it's just just pop it into the into the suggestion box. Let us know what you think. I know maybe he's too busy chatting up the two-way guys in the back, but just my Is there anything more obnoxious than a beat writer saying like, "Oh, please make my life easier for me"?
I don't know, man, but I started on Rondo, so like I did. Yeah. I do
Rondo and KG, like,
oh my gosh,
God.
Rondo was tough, man. He took forever.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I know how people feel like about beat writers. Like, the last thing I want to be is beat writer who complains on a podcast. Like, that's not it at all.
You cannot be that guy.
You cannot be that guy. But still, Tatum, I mean, let's meet in the middle. This is shave 15 minutes off the routine. Let's just see. It's the Tatum shave 15 minutes off your post-game routine challenge. Let's see if we can get that to happen.
Yeah.
Do it on TikTok. Make it a TikTok thing.
You could try it. Yeah. Make it go viral.
Let's see if Tatum's going to have some new teammates to talk to when we come back. We'll do that next. First, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook. We're ready for the NBA season to come back. But first, football is back, and people love to bet on football. And so FanDuel is giving you a chance to win all season long. Right now, you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Every single time. So you pick a team to win the Super Bowl, then every time that team wins, you get bonus bets. And you can throw bonus bets on anything. I mean, I got Patrick Mahomes plus 600 to win the MVP. Throw a bonus bet on that. I got, let's say, Tyreek Hill as plus 2,000 for Offensive Player of the Year. Let's throw a bonus bet on that. Every time your Super Bowl bet to wins in the regular season, you get a bonus bet to bet on anything you want. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. I just ask you, if you're going to bet, please gamble responsibly. Thanks for sticking with, I don't know what I was just trying to say there. Thanks for sticking with the Locked On NBA, Locked On Celtics podcast. Boy, I'm not stopping. I am not editing that out. This is the Locked On Celtics podcast, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're sneaking towards Monday through Friday once again, because training camp's going to open in like a month. We're about a month away from Media Day. So basketball is going to come back. And remember, once that happens, we're back to 5 days a week. And then in the regular season, when you see a Friday game, when you see a Saturday game, post-game podcasts are happening. So those are bonus podcasts. I am going to do podcasts every post-game. So check that out. Let's get Tom Westerholm back in here. Let's start with a quick note on Kristaps Porzingis, who said that he expects to be ready for the regular season. The Celtics wanted him to come back to Boston to start the rehab process, but he has insisted on sticking with the Latvian national team to spend this extra time with his family and his friends and everybody back home, and they have accommodated him. So I think that's all fine, as long as he's getting the treatment that he needs. I'm assuming that the internet exists in Latvia, and Zoom calls and video calls and FaceTime with the Celtics training staff can be had, and they can tell him what to do with other professional trainers. So I don't see any issue with this at all.
No, and I mean, it's not like his condition is some rare thing. It's like this
His toes just randomly fall off. There's a very specific way to put them back on.
Right.
It only happened in Boston.
Like they don't have Phillips screwdrivers out in Latvia to put the toes back on. No, like I think they'll be able to. I think they'll be able to sort that out.
So, but it'd be nice to have some insurance. And they need wing insurance. He's going to be.
Well, they probably actually have healthcare in Latvia, so maybe insurance isn't necessary.
Boom, Tom. Hello.
Hey.
Heyo. Tip your waitress. All right. So how about some Celtics wing insurance?
Ooh.
The Celtics have been working out a number of wings. I talked a little bit about TJ Warren, Lamar Stevens. They're bringing in Lewis King. They're bringing in who else? Glenn Robinson III. So I know you've got like Tom, the follow guys progression through middle school has attachments to some of these guys.
I mean, Lewis King is I would have bet, still would bet on a lot of money to give this man an opportunity. I swear this guy was like he was one of the better high school players I ever saw come through the Hoopball Classic in Springfield. He was great. I mean, he's just like, there's a lot to his game. And I mean, I've watched, I was going to say I've watched him minimally in the NBA. He's played minimally in the NBA.
Well, yeah, he's got like 27 games in the NBA.
Yeah. But like there was a ton of talent there in high school, man. Like, and I mean, just like, yeah, maybe I just kind of overestimated him in high school. Maybe I'm wrong, but like the stuff I saw with him is kind of similar to the stuff like you kind of like, I don't know, I'm going to be like pulling cards out here, but like I saw Markelle Fultz coming before Markelle Fultz was Markelle Fultz. Like you can just kind of see it with some guys in high school. And Lewis King was that. Like he was that guy. He was playing on a really talented team that had other, other D1 guys, other kind of low level NBA guys. But man, he was disgusting. He was a really, really good player. So I don't have anything to like genuinely back up my take that the Celtics should sign him to probably the, non-taxpayer MLE. Maybe something more. Maybe try to get him on like a 4-year deal worth something similar to what Jaylen got. Would be kind of my. But
no, that makes total sense. Sense. You want to lock a guy like that up before
you gotta lock him up. He's awesome. You got to do it. No, I mean, in high school he was awesome. I think there's a lot to his game. I'd be fascinated to watch him. I would love to see that.
I think it speaks to how good you have to be.
Oh yeah,
to suck in the NBA. Like, and I'm not going to say he sucks. It's like unfair to use him as the example. He's actually had some decent performances in the NBA, but it's maybe the better way to say it. Boy, I'm just taking shots today. What's happened?
Chris Paul,
are you all right, man? What's going on with me today? I took a nap this afternoon. I'm like, it should be happy. This is a Friday podcast. I'm punchy. Yeah. I don't know what it is. The better way to put it would be how good you have to be on the fringes of the NBA. Yeah. This is maybe Tom, this tells you how much editing I have to go internally to put forth a professional podcast 5 days a week, 3 days a week in August. But how much internal editing I need to actually have to put this image forward, and how much I might actually want to say on a podcast that might allow me to say some of the things I want to say.
But I mean, but your point is well taken though, right? I mean, like but the example that I always come back to is Shane Larkin, right? Where it's like this dude like barely was a part of things for the Celtics, and then he goes overseas and he is. I mean, he's gonna have statues built of him. Like he's just this god of basketball.
Like MVPs and stuff. Like,
he's awesome. Man. Yeah.
But being in the league, being in the NBA, like people don't realize. You see somebody and you're like, God, he sucks. But like, actually, like, yeah, he's playing terribly, and he's probably having like whoever pick a name that's having a terrible NBA career. Like I brought up Kevin Knox the other day and got aggregated to hell, over a joke. But Kevin Knox is having a bad NBA career, but he has to be amazing at basketball. He has to be in the top like 0.0004% of human beings to be bad in the NBA. Like if he goes into your rec league, he's scoring 100 points in your game without even sweating. Like he's just dominant in other levels. And that's how good the NBA is, right? You got to go up against Kevin Durant and LeBron James and all of that stuff. And so these guys that come through that the Celtics are looking to add, Glenn Robinson III. I mean, Glenn Robinson III comes from NBA, lineage. He's a guy that probably should come out better than he's been, and is looking for that opportunity. Lamar Stevens, he can only do a few things well in the NBA, but I tell you what, I bet you he can score 100 points in a rec league game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
For sure.
So these guys that the Celtics are bringing in, super talented guys, but with the right opportunity. The question is, does Lewis King get that opportunity with Boston? What's the opportunity with Boston? We're looking at somebody that comes off the bench,
starter,
right?
All NBA.
I'm sorry, that's right. The captain, new captain.
Yeah.
But the TJ Warrens, those guys, maybe somebody can kind of elevate their way. But I think basically the Celtics are just looking for that depth. They want to find that forward now. And I'm very curious, Tom, I wonder if the delay in the Damian Lillard, James Harden stuff has an impact on this. Let's talk about that in just a second. First, today's show, I want to thank you for making the Locked On Celtics your first listen every day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday right now. Check out the Locked On NBA podcast, Locked On NBA, hosted by new hosts every week. I'm on Wednesdays with Jake Madison. We have a good time there. Locked On NBA is 5 days a week, all throughout the postseason. So, Tom, the point I'm making here is I think guys like Kelly Oubre, who else is unsigned? Christian Wood is unsigned. Guys there's no reason for them to be out of the league.
Right.
I think they might be kind of hanging out in Miami when you trade away a bunch of guys to get Damian Lillard. They're going to have a few roster spots and they're going to have some money to spend. Maybe Kelly Oubre lands there.
Yeah.
But this stuff is starting to, take too long.
It's dragging.
And if it doesn't happen soon, if I'm Kelly Oubre, let's say, and I say, well, we overshot this, or the league screwed us, or whatever. I'm not on a team, and it's now September. We're a week away from September 1st here, and those guys going to want to be on a team soon.
Yes.
So maybe Boston is like, they're working these guys out. Maybe there's a chance for them to grab maybe a bigger name at a cheap price and say, hey, sorry you got screwed by this whole thing. Here's 1 year. Play for us for 1 year. And hey, do your best, maybe win a championship, and then goodbye.
Yeah, I think that's very plausible if you want to have a player who's worse than Louis King. But yeah, no, I think you're right though. I do think that there's a this has been such a weird offseason that way, because you got somebody like James Harden who gave up his negotiating power and then demanded a trade. You got somebody like Damian Lillard who has who's
what dummy James Harden is, but anyway,
I
can say freely on the podcast. No issues whatsoever. James Harden.
I don't think there's going to be that much disagreement, frankly. But these guys' situations are weird. There's just even the trade demands this offseason are just weird. There's always a little bit of drama every offseason, and this one's is just kind of chaotic.
Bizarre.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that a little bit with, like you said, Kelly Oubre is still out there. That is not a dude. He's not a perfect NBA player, but I think it is emblematic.
Points.
Yeah, I think it's emblematic of a weird, chaotic NBA offseason that Kelly Oubre is still out there, that some of these guys are still out there. And yeah, if you're the Celtics, if you're one of these contending teams, because if you're Kelly Oubre, you get to this stage. You want to make sure you're on a team where you're going to be exposed, you're going to be somewhat public facing, because what you don't want to do is kind of let yourself be on the fringes. I don't think you want that, because then you're starting to play with fire a little bit. Then if you're on the fringe, you don't want to be forgotten about. You got a lot of game, but you don't want to be forgotten about. You don't want next offseason to roll around and everybody's like, I forgot about him. He played in where? Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, man, I don't know. I think I'm probably like, that's not what you want. Like, you want to be top of mind as much as possible. You want to be playing on ESPN as much as the Celtics are on ESPN. Like, you really want that stuff. So,
and you want to be playing with teammates like Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
I mean, doesn't hurt, right? Like,
those
you want to
hear teammates to have.
You want to hear the stuff that you heard from Blake Griffin,
That's right,
before you go to a place. Yeah,
you want to know that Jayson Tatum's going to come sit with you at the lunch table at the Auerbach Center and not like shun you.
Yeah, you're not going to have to go sit at the uncool kids table. You can
with Luke Cornett and
with the Bus 2 boys. You don't want to be part of that, or Bus 1 boys.
Whatever. But, hey, Tatum and Brown, fresh off a summer of, at least one workout together, which it's funny because, like, everybody's like, oh, wow, yes, finally, they did a workout together. And then right away, the next thing is like, hey, here's Jayson Tatum and Tyler Hero working out together. So it's like an artist who does, like, one of those duets albums, and it's just, it's this artist and duets with everybody. It's like, hey, here's Jaylen Brown, and here's Tyler Hero, and here's, Joel Embiid. So... but it was fun to see those guys working out together, if only for whatever time it was, because it does show that. I said it on the last podcast. I know you have thoughts too, but I love the fact that they're at least they made the effort to go out there and do this and kind of like, it's hard for guys to cross paths, even if you're teammates. It's hard to cross paths in the off season sometimes if you're not working with the same coaches or working with the same, working on the same promotional circuit or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, which these guys haven't been. They live two separate lives. They live very different lives. So to have them coordinate that now I think it's meaningful.
I could not agree more. I think that, like, I'm not gonna, like, I don't think it's like this big, like, I don't think you have to sit and pretend that it's like, oh, like, this means that they're best friends. They're going to play together forever. But I do think it's very meaningful that, like, hey, Jaylen showed up. Like Drew Hanlon works with, everybody knows who Hanlon's guys are, it's like, and like Tatum puts in work, a lot of work with him. Like, he is a hard worker during the offseason, and Jaylen is too. And I think that something that happens is, like, these guys have been together for a long time now. They've been watching each other for a long time now from up close, right? And then the offseason rolls around and they both kind of go their separate ways, but they both work really hard. And I think it's kind of meaningful that, like, Tatum and Jaylen, like, get together now and they work with Tatum's guy, right? And I think it's meaningful both from, like, Tatum being like, hey, Jaylen, like, I don't know if this is what happened, but it's like, like, hey, like if Jaylen is working with Tatum with Drew Hanlon, that's like that is specifically like, okay, Jaylen has decided he's going to go put in some work with Tatum's guy. Mm-hmm. And like, that's Jaylen saying, I see all the work that Tatum puts in and I respect it. And that's Tatum saying, I see all the work you put in. Yeah, man, come work out with us. Like, there's that kind of vibe to it. That matters quite a bit. Like, you and I were talking before the show. Like, I don't think it was unreasonable for people to be like, hey, I don't think these guys are friends for like a while. And not that they disliked each other, just like they didn't hang out. They were professionals. But like, I mean, we're like 6 years into their careers now. Like, they have a lot of shared experiences now. Like, they've done the very human thing of being two people who worked together very closely and now kind of like see each other, kind of, they have this kind of rapport with each other now. And like all these things that they can draw from and be like, remember when this happened, or like, oh, when we were in this place, we did this, or, oh, my goals are this and your goals are this. And actually they really align and we could work together on them. Like, these are things that can happen if you spend a lot of time with somebody. So I think I do think it's very meaningful that they're working out together, even if it's like a one-off, even if it's 1 or 2 workouts, even if it's, they work out together in one place and then they're both at the white party or whatever. Like, I think these things are kind of a big deal.
They are. And like, you use the term work, which is an important term to use. They work together. Yeah. This is a job. And for us on the outside, people who are listening, like, no, this is Celtics basketball. When you grow up in, and not, whatever, you grow up falling in love with the Boston Celtics, but especially in the Boston area, wherever you grow up, you identify, you see that Boston across the chest, and that's your home. That means something to you. That's why a lot of you root for the Red Sox and you root for the Patriots and you root for the Bruins, and you might not even be a big hockey fan, but I tell you what, if the Bruins are in the Stanley Cup Finals, you're like, yeah, let's watch this thing. I want a parade. So, but that's not what this is for these guys, and I think that's the beginning of a lot of problems, because fans want players to take it as seriously, and players can take it seriously, but it doesn't have to rise to that level, because it's a job. This is a way to make money. It's a way to make a ton of money, but that's how, I work. I do this. This is my job. I make money doing this. And that's all it is for these guys. So they don't have to be friends is the point that I'm trying to make. I'm not friends. When I was working in television, I wasn't friends with all my coworkers. Even when I go back to playing, I was friendly with a lot of the guys, and I'd hang out with some of the guys sometimes, but other guys I'd hang out with all the time, and those have become my friends that were at my wedding, right? Those guys. But I know that I have friends that if I go to a certain city, like, I know I can hit this guy up and we can hang out, and he's also a friend of mine, but we were teammates. That's the level I think that these guys have the relationship with. So I hear this on the radio. People, I know they're trying to be divisive. They're trying to make people pick a side. But this whole notion of, if you didn't say it was a big deal that they didn't work out together, you can't say it's a big deal that they are working out together. Like, the example I used before is, like, I'll go play the Powerball every time I go to the grocery store. It's not a big deal if I don't win, right? It's just a couple of bucks here and there. But it's a damn big deal if I do. Like, things can be not a big deal if they don't happen, but also a big deal if they do happen. Like, you're dismissing a whole lot of life events. There are a lot of things that aren't a big deal. Like, oh, there might be a college I didn't get into. But it's a big deal that I got into Emerson College, right? Like, you can't live life dismissing people like that. It wasn't that big of a deal that they weren't working out, but it's nice to see now. And it is like now. Yeah, it is nice to see. And it is kind of a big deal that they have done this. Not that it meant a whole lot that they didn't. It just means a lot now that they did.
Absolutely. And like, it means a lot that it was like captured and put on social media. Like, those guys knew that if they worked out together, it was going to be all over social media, sure. That. And like, they're all good with that, right? Like, they're like, yeah, we're going to get this workout in. Like, yeah, people are going to see us working out together. It's going to I feel like it kind of sends a message about like where they're at and like, where their relationship is at. Like, that's great, man. Like, that does matter. And it doesn't really, it doesn't mean that like, Jaylen is going to have Tatum's game. Doesn't mean that he's going to all of a sudden be Jayson Tatum just because he worked out with his trainer. It doesn't mean that Tatum is all of a sudden going to have everything in Jaylen's game just because he worked out with him in the offseason. It just means that they're working together, that they're like, that they share the same professional goals, that they're in this, situation together. I think, if you're somebody who seeing Boston across the jersey, that matters to you, it should matter to you that these two guys are part of this organization that cares so much about winning, and like they're buying in on trying to do it together. Like, I don't know, man. That seems like a big deal to me. Like, yeah, and like, I'm a pretty cynical dude, but I'm with you. Like, I think it's kind of a big deal. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It just boils down to that. You get the two leaders of the team, whatever it was, Jaylen saying, hey, wherever it was that Tatum was working out, hey, I'm going to be in your town. You mind if I roll through for a workout? Like, yeah, come on in, man.
Yep.
Let's go. Let's chop it up and have like that. That is meaningful. Even if it's a next step, however you want to characterize it, it is meaningful. And again, not that it, because they didn't mean that's, oh God, now they finally like each other, like you've been saying. It's just, I understand that those people are doing a job on the radio, that their job is to get people to call in and scream at them, either make my point and say, no, you guys are idiots, and they want that interaction. But it just doesn't serve the discourse. It doesn't help Celtics fans at all, because this is just a nice moment. I don't want to blow it up. I don't want to make it seem like it's the biggest thing. If they win a championship, maybe when I start telling the story of the championship, that will be on the first page. But that's not. This is the seed that planted the champion. That's not it. It's just a nice thing to happen.
Right. I actually think you put it perfectly earlier, right? It's they were in town together and one of them was like, yeah, let's chop it up. Right. What that means, right, is that they were in the same town for some reason, whether it was because they hit each other up or because they just happened to find themselves in the same town. But one of them hit the other one up. And then the other one was like, yeah, come work out. Or, whatever. Because, again, Hanlon is Tatum's guy. So, this didn't happen by accident. This wasn't there was some intentionality to this that I think kind of matters.
Once again, if you want what's really happening, you want the real story, come to a podcast. Come to this podcast. Don't listen.
You will never miss an opportunity to say so.
No, never. No. Because Sports Talk Radio's job is to incite reaction. That's their job. And I'm not saying that, whatever, that's the job that you want to do, go for it. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not.
Pretty well from what I understand.
What's that?
Said it pays pretty well from what I understand.
It pays well, but maybe not quite as much because podcasts are making inroads and they're becoming much more popular. And, if you do a good podcast on a popular team, you can make a decent living off of that too. So, funny how the turntables. But if you want the real story, this is because we actually spend time and we have nuance and can actually get into it. Sports Talk Radio just wants you to call and yell. That's the difference. That's all it is. So, all right, Tom, I'm not going to yell at you. I mean, unless you, I don't know. Never mind. Never mind. I was going to say, so I don't know. I was trying to work an ending there, but it just fell flat. It fell flat. We got to get together and work it out, and then we'll come with a better.
People are surprised to see us working together during the summer, but it's Yeah.
All right, Tom. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Tom, always a good time to have Tom on the podcast. And always a good time to have you listening to the podcast and watching the podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed that. This is the Friday show. Back for you Monday next week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the next, let's say 3-4 weeks. And then back to the 5-day-a-week grind, because that's what we are built on here. And then, like I said, once the season starts, look at that schedule. Lots of Friday games, lots of Saturday games, which means I'm working for you Friday night, Saturday night, writing those post-game stories, the columns on Boston Sports Journal, and then doing a podcast for you right here after those publish. So tons of Celtics content coming from me for you. You can listen here. You can watch here on the YouTube page. I would love it if you're a regular listener, if you're a regular watcher, if you shared the podcast, spread the word. Tell your friends, tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.